In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God. In today's Gospel of Luke, it reminds us of the wonderful blessing of Elizabeth and Zechariah having their child John, and the annunciation of Archangel Gabriel of the child John that will be born to Elizabeth in her old age. And she said in the last verse, in verse 25, "Thus the Lord has dwelt with me in the days which he looked on me to take away my reproach among people." For back in those days, they were waiting from the Messiah and waiting from the lineage through his bloodline from Abraham, Isaac and Jacob and down, that they're waiting, they knew they will receive a Messiah that was a male. For a woman not to have children was a great reproach and was a great failure, and the people considered that there must be something wrong with the woman, or something wrong in her life, or something wrong in her faithfulness. And that's why Elizabeth said that you have taken my reproach away from me. Also, as we see, this was not the first time a child of promise was delivered. We had a woman like Abraham and Sarah who was waiting for a child and had a child of their old age, and God gave them Isaac. We also had Samuel and Hannah. We had Samuel. Hannah was also barren for a long time. But then after she had Samuel and gave him to Eli the priest, she had numerous other children, but it is not recorded her children, but she had other children. It shows us when God blesses a person and gives you a child of promise, it makes a difference in a child that is born by God's grace, but this was a child of promise. Here then also of Elizabeth and Zechariah, the announcement happened, and the Gospel of Luke records that he took eyewitness accounts. St. Luke was not of the 12 apostles and had not personally met Christ, but he was, as mentioned in the early church, a disciple of St. Peter. Yet, St. Luke records an account, a very orderly account of the narration story of the birth and announcement of the Lord John the Baptist, and also records the birth of Christ. And it says it seems to be good to me that I write a narration in an orderly account. Why was it nice and orderly? Because he was a doctor. He was a doctor. So he would write in a very orderly manner, as a doctor is trained to do so. And so he records from eyewitness accounts, not of personal accounts, but eyewitness accounts of the happenings and of this prophecy of John the Baptist that to be fulfilled. Zechariah at the time was a priest of the church, of the temple of the Lord, and it says here that they used to hold, as mentioned, used to serve in the incense altar. And they would have a rotation system in the church or in the temple back in those days. And they would also work out who would be in the incense altar at that point of time. And do you know how we choose the Pope with an aura? Exactly the same. That's what it is to choose who would be the priest of that time. So they would give God the opportunity to also partake of the decision of which priest will serve where. So they also bring a child and put their hand in and say, okay, Zechariah's turn. Again, exactly the same of choosing of the deacons, and exactly the same of choosing the bishops back in those days, and also as we choose the Pope, exactly the same system. So they'll bring someone and choose who's serving in the altar at that day. Well, the lot fell on Zechariah at that point of time. And Zechariah was a very old man, and so was Elizabeth, who were both barren and were accustomed to ridicule and persecution, even though he was a priest, for his wife did not have any children. According to the custom of the priesthood, the lot fell to him. And so he went in the due course over the time that he was allotted to burn incense. As we know, there was a sacrifice, the altar of the sacrifice, and then later on it was introduced by David the prophet, the altar of incense. The altar of incense only came from David the prophet. And here this was the first time it was recorded incense was used in the altar by David. David introduced that as the king, this new idea of incense burning, and also David introduced the idea of hymnology in the church. As we know, David wrote hymns and chants and used to play musical instruments. It was only that time that the incense altar was introduced, and so was the hymns of the church was introduced at that point of time. Prior to that, you would not see the incense altar, or maybe a few small instances of hymns. So the incense altar then would cover the stench of the blood sacrifice. If you can imagine the blood sacrifice in the altar back in those days, as Raphael said to us, can you imagine what the situation would be when you get lambs and animals? And Abuna is a butcher. He was a butcher. Knives and to make the appropriate sacrifices in an appropriate manner. So you can do سكاكين بقى وحاجات زي كده, and he used to let the sacrifice come in, and he used to do it in the right way and cut the lamb in the appropriate way. So أبونا كان نقول كله دم. So imagine the smell of the animals that were butchered, but thank God that David introduced the incense altar, which covered the stench of the smell, and therefore it was allotted from that point of time that the priest would serve as also raising incense. So here it was then that Zechariah, his turn, and Elizabeth had prayed earnestly, just like Joachim and Anna, who had the blessed Theotokos Saint Mary. And Elizabeth was extremely distressed at that time, and we know that because when she heard the announcement that she will bear a son, and usually the son is called after the father. The son is called after the father. So it'll be Zechariah Jr. But here, the announcement was that he will call him John. So when Elizabeth heard that she was about to bear the child, she removed herself so nobody would know. That nobody would know that she would bear a child. When he came out, he could not speak to them. So after that, Zechariah heard the announcement from Archangel Gabriel. His wife Elizabeth conceived, and she hid herself for 5 months. He hid herself for 5 months. The only person that knew that she would conceive is only Zechariah and Elizabeth only. For they were concerned of the ridicule of the people and of the reputation of his priesthood. And so the only other person that we know that was new of Elizabeth being pregnant and conceived was who? St. Mary herself. When the archangel told her that your cousin Elizabeth is also have conceived, because it was a secret. Nobody else knew at all. But here we see that God delivers in a remarkable way the beauty of his giving. When a man wants to have a child and a woman cannot conceive, the Lord might answer in a way that he blesses them and gives them a child, and they will be happy with that. But when you look at the Old Testament and New Testament, how God delivers, he gives Abraham Isaac. He gives Joachim and Anna St. Mary herself. St. Mary, the Theotokos. He gives Elizabeth and Zechariah, John the Baptist, the greatest of all men. He gives them over and beyond what is requested from their prayers. Elizabeth in their prayers and Zechariah did not ask the Lord, give me John the Baptist who will set the straight path of the Lord. Give me a prophet. Give me a Nazarene. Give me someone that will turn the world upside down in three sole years of his life when he came of age, and 6 months only in his ministry. Did not ask of this. They simply asked, give us a child. Give us a child. And so did Joachim and Anna ask the same question. Joachim said to Anna, he said to her, I will go into a cave. In the history, this is in church tradition. I will go in a cave and you will not see my face again until God answers me. And Anna said to him the same thing. She said to him, you will not see me either until God responds. And Zechariah and Joachim said to her, neither will I eat. And so he withdrew himself in the cave and implored God. He said, I'm not leaving this cave until you answer me. Imagine that. He got to an age where he said to God, and he was a very righteous man before people. He was a very great man amongst his peers, was Joachim. And he said to God, I'm not going to come and see a single face of another human being. Neither will I see my wife unless what? Unless you answer me. And so did Anna. Said to Joachim, as for me, I will do the same thing. And then we had the Annunciation of St. Mary, and you see the beautiful icon. In the Coptic Church, you see one of the most beautiful icons that we have for married couples. You know which one it is? It's very rare. You see it in some churches. Where after the Annunciation, that they will bear a child, Joachim runs down from the cave and the mountains, and Anna comes forth from the village, and they meet somewhere called at the Beautiful Gate, which is mentioned in the Bible, the Beautiful Gate. And then they embrace each other. They embrace each other. And Joachim tells Anna, I've had a vision, a message from God, and Anna says to him, it's the same. And they embrace each other. And you see the icon of Joachim and Anna hugging each other in front of the Beautiful Gate, and this beautiful Coptic icon of that. The wonderful relief that's on their face. But who does God send to them? It would have been enough for God would have said to them, you will bear a child. But who does God send them? He sends them the Mother of God, the Theotokos. He sends them the second heaven. He sends them the greatest woman and the greatest of all creation. The one that we praise for a whole month in the month of Kiak at the moment. And the church arranges a Sarah. And the church arranges this beautiful hymnology for St. Mary herself. What an amazing God. And he says to him, St. Mary will bear the Messiah. Then Joachim and Anna become the grandparents of Christ himself. Imagine that. And then Anna and Joachim say, this is a child of promise, and gives him to the temple to Zechariah. And then God says to them, not only will I give you one child called Mary, but I will give you a second child, and you will call her Mary as well, to substitute for this Mary. Look how God gives beyond our human imagination. I could not fathom a more harsher issue then a woman and a man not be able to conceive. It is a very difficult thing. To those who are struggling, to those who are in distress, be like Joachim. Says to him, I'm not going to talk to you unless you give me this. ربنا بيحب الكلام ده, by the way. God loves it. God loves this type of things. And he says, I'm really upset with you. It's like having a little baby who's having a little tantrum, a 2-year-old having a tantrum, and the father's looking at him laughing and saying, wow, look at this child. It is a prayer to say to God, God, I have this problem before you. I will not do this. Give this to me in earnestness and faithfulness, but in seriousness, like Joachim. Like Abraham, who the Lord promised him a promised child, then came to him in the tent. And then Sarah heard that she will bear a child, and she laughed inside her heart. And the Lord said to her, why do you laugh, Sarah? Sarah was not laughing as people say, that she was mocking God, but rather, in the early church, that she was laughing in her heart. And that's why Isaac, the word means Isaac means laughter, because she laughed. The Lord delivers, and then sends his archangel Gabriel and says to him that I stand in the presence of God. For Archangel Gabriel is a ministering angel, like all angels. And he said to him, I have good news and glad tidings. You will bear a great man, a great prophet, and his name will be John. But Zechariah, unlike St. Mary, said to Archangel Gabriel, he said, how can this be, for my wife is of old age? St. Mary asked the same question to the Archangel and said to him, how can this be, for I do not know a man? Zechariah asked the same question, how can this be, for my wife is of old age? But Zechariah was a priest. Zechariah was versed in the Old Testament, and he knew Abraham and Sarah had a child of old age. He knew that Samuel was born from parents of old age. He knew these things, therefore he should have known that it would be impossible for God to answer their prayers. And that's why the Lord, Archangel Gabriel, touched him and he became mute and was not able to speak. But for St. Mary, the question was not how can this be? The question was, I am a virgin. How will this be? How will this occur? For never has a virgin ever conceived. It was the only time. So it was a rational and appropriate question. Therefore, the people marveled as he lingered in the temple and he came out and he could not speak. And the conclusion was that she conceived and she had John the Beloved, the greatest of all men. May God bless you and give you what your requests are. May God fulfill all our needs over and abundant from an abundant God and a loving Christ, and glory be to God forever.
We send you greetings with Gabriel the angel, hail full of grace. The Lord is with you, therefore at all times we glorify you as the Autochthons. Ask the Lord on our behalf that He might forgive us our sins. Blessed be the Father and the Son and the